What's up, everybody? Welcome to PixelPlay Sidequests, your bonus content here on the YouTube channel. My name is Adam, aka CS Radical, joined as always by Jen and Chris. It is Balatro time. May not be the last either, because who knows? We always seem to gush about it at some point, because it's a never-ending process.
It's also a never-ending game. Every time I think I'm done with it and I put it down, I don't uninstall it, which is probably the part where I fail. I come back to it randomly a month later and put another like 20 hours into it. And it's like, fuck.
It's just a good game to pop around in for.
It is. It really is.
But I'm not even sure really what I want to do with this. I'm just like, hey, let's gush about Balatro for the side quest. And you're like, cool.
Yes. Instant yes. It's easily one of my favorite games. It's in my top. I have like 4 Game of the Year games from last year because I struggle with picking one. Balatro is one of them. And it's easily my most played game of 2024 as well. Just fantastic. And I'm still playing it. I'm not going to lie. I played a little bit yesterday for like an hour until I was like, stop it. Backlog exists.
Yeah, I mean, I've got one deck left to unlock because what I've been doing is every time I unlock a new deck, I play up to the blind that I'm at. So I've got every blind up until the blind that I just started was the one that gives you -1 discard permanently, which I think is blue stake. And that obviously got me the plasma deck, which is bonkers, by the way, just balancing the multiplier and the chips into a cohesive thing.
In the first few antes or whatever it's called, holy, that just feels like you're cheating. Because you'll put down something that shouldn't have
you'll
won.
get like 10,000 almost right off the bat.
Yeah, and you're like, I love this. It's so like, good for doing quick runs.
And then you get towards the end and you realize also it scales things up too. That deck specifically will scale things.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit. I wasn't anticipating 200,000 this quickly.
Yeah, I think that's the deck I was using when I definitely had my best run, which was like E to the 19th power or whatever ridiculous number I ended up with. Yeah. I broke it.
I guess one of the first things I want to talk, because again, the big reason that I got this is because I'm just pulling up the thing here. So play tracker on X. Yes, I'm going to say X the one time, just for funsies here. Saying the Balatro sweep was real. Balatro reached more new players across all platforms in December than any month before. So the Game Awards clearly had an impact with it getting a Game of the Year nomination. And quite frankly, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was the runner-up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Excuse me. Remnants of potentially walking pneumonia still hanging in there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the first thing I want to talk about is, since we got a lot of new people starting to play this game, is, we've both put a bunch of time into it. I don't know how many hours you got. I think I'm somewhere in like the 40 to 50 range probably. I've got, how many games? I think I have somewhere around like 50 wins now in the game.
So. Yeah, I have 50-something wins, I think like 52, 53, but I've got like 95 hours or something.
Yeah, I think my hours may be way more than I think they are. It's just... time is relative in that game. Let's be real.
Oh yeah, no, you lose time. Time is gone. Time means nothing. The cards are all that matter.
if you're someone starting out, especially when you're just learning the few decks that you have in front of you, what's the first few things that you would suggest to people to look out for who are mostly unfamiliar with what they're walking into with Balatro?
When it comes to like a strategy for the very beginning to get used to it, the first thing is like you're going to end up picking a type of poker hand. And you're going to end up sticking with that. You may go into this because normal poker, you play a different poker hand every time. It's just whatever you get in the cards. You might have 2 pair one time, and then you're going for a flush the next hand or whatever. In this, because you get randomized jokers in the store that you buy, and each joker kind of adds a specific change to kind of the way you gather points and stuff around a certain type of card play, you're going to end up just having to wrap your mind around that you're going to be looking for the same type of hand every single time. You're going to build your jokers and your deck, if you do make any changes to it, around those hands. And it's usually like you have an idea of which like 2 or 3 you're good at, or you can find fairly easily. But then, of course, you pivot very early in the game once you start seeing what jokers you have available to you. I started off with flushes in the early game because it was just very easy to pull off flushes all the time. And when you are starting the game, not all the jokers are unlocked, and a bunch of them have unlocked conditions. And it usually comes from playing certain card types. So if you play enough flushes or enough flushes that are hearts, you'll probably end up unlocking a joker that will start appearing in the store that has to do like you gain a 1.5 multiplier for every heart you play. Something along those lines. So you actually have to play the hands in order to actually unlock the jokers for future runs. It's kind of a
you're definitely
nice
gonna want to do
thing.
some experimentation, but there's definitely you'll want to concentrate on a couple of things. Like I usually say,
Yes.
straights, flushes, pairs. Those are
Pairs.
usually the three things to start with. Pairs can be very easy to rock with if you get the right setup. Flushes and straights, you do have to finagle a little bit more, but if there are certain jokers that you get early, like there's the 4 fingers one, which means you only need 4 cards to complete a straight or a flush. I can't remember the other card's name, but it's the one where for straights you can actually have a gap of 1
Yes.
between them. Stuff like that. You know, more often than not, what I tell people if they're starting out, get used to one hand type first and just mess with that and try to see what synergizes well with it. And then once you've got that down, play a seed and just wherever the run takes you, go with it. If the first store really lines you up with jokers that are meant for 2 pair or really meant for straights, take it and just concentrate on it, and you'll start learning that certain things work with others. There are jokers today that I use more than I did 20, 30 hours ago. I suddenly love seeing pareidolia, which is all cards become face cards. Because when you realize that it works well with, say, a card like the Midas Touch, which makes every face card a gold card, and then you have the Vampire, which every time a hand is played, they eat any enhancements and adds 0.1 to your multiplier for every enhancement, you suddenly have a 3-card combo that every time you play a hand, especially if it's a straight or a flush, where it's always 5 cards, you have a 0.5 multiplier being added every single hand you play. So you can get, by the end of that game, nearly a ×10 multiplier.
Yeah,
and just
which
goes
is huge.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Or there's another card, the driver's license, which I think it's ×4 if you get, I think it's like 17 or I think it's either 15, 16, or 17, something around that, where once you've got that many enhanced cards, you now unlock its ×4 multiplier, where it's like, hey, find ways to enhance your cards as much as possible. Sometimes you get a really bad seed. Like sometimes it'll just happen where you get dog shit. Like you're just not going to get anything that works. That sometimes it's a randomizer. That's what's going to happen sometimes. But generally speaking, if you get a card that transforms a certain hand type, focus on it and just let the seed play out. Because that'll make you look out for certain stuff in the future. So if you pull, say, a Midas Touch, that you suddenly go, okay, I don't have anything else yet, but maybe I can hang on to this for a round or two, see if pareidolia or see if the Vampire shows up, and all of a sudden, I now have something to synergize with. So it just gives you something to start looking out for. Because if you concentrate on one thing, because I used to do that, I used to just be a pairs guy and didn't do anything else, that I started realizing, well, there are certain decks too that just don't jive with it well. So like, for example, there's the checker deck, which is just only 2, I think it's spades and hearts.
Spades and hearts.
Which basically said, you're playing flushes. I don't care what you want to do, you're playing flushes.
Yeah, that's my flush
and
deck.
You got to learn how to, and that maybe learn what synergize well with flushes. So it's a matter of, depending on the deck you choose to, kind of leans you in a certain direction as well. But if you're playing like the early games, if you're just playing the red deck or the blue deck or the yellow deck, like the very 3 basic ones, just mess with it, man. Like, obviously find something you like first, so you at least start getting like something to always fall back on if you come across them. But after that, let the game take you where it wants to take you and just see what happens. Yeah. Try some stuff. Mess with cards.
And don't aim, like a lot of people think like, oh, I got to go for a royal flush. I've got to, like, it's poker. I got to go for the crazy hand that wins.
You will almost never have a deck that goes.
You'll never win.
Like straight flushes and royal flushes are never almost going to happen.
No.
I've never even really found a deck that full houses well.
No. There's ways to do it, but it's like you get lucky and it happens, not like you aim for it. Yeah, because like you're gonna go much farther in a run with like aiming for 2 pairs, say, or a pair versus going for royal flushes, because you just won't get it and you'll lose in the
You're
first
more
2
likely
rounds.
going to get like 5 flushes, which is
Yeah.
they have custom hands you can play. Like there's 5 of a kind. There's 5 flush, which is 5 of a kind plus flush.
Yeah.
There's what's the other one I'm missing? Because there's 3 special ones.
5 of a kind, 5 flush. Oh, shoot, what is the other one? It's something that's impossible in normal cards. That's why it's like the 5 flush. Was it like a flush house? Flush house, 5 of a kind.
Is it maybe that? Let me see. I'm searching.
I think there's
now.
flush house.
I think you might be right.
Because technically you
flush
can't.
house.
Yeah, because technically in a normal deck of cards, you can't have a full house all the same suit. You can't have 3 cards of the same suit. But it's Balatro.
Yeah.
You can start editing the deck through other cards you unlock and such. Yeah, and if any of you listening, if you find like, I went and I played 4 rounds and I didn't win any of them, what a waste of time. It's not a waste of time because 1, it's actually really fun to try. And 2, again, a lot of the jokers and stuff don't unlock until you meet certain conditions. And then you'll find in the first few hours of playing, every time you play, you're going to notice that when you exit back to the main menu, it's going to show you all these jokers or vouchers or whatever that you've unlocked now that'll start appearing in the store because of what you did during your runs. And I remember I had one time I think I played for like 6 straight hours and I went back to the main menu. It doesn't show you what you've unlocked every time. You have to go back to the main menu for it to then finally show you. And I sat there for a while just seeing all of the different jokers and stuff that I had unlocked apparently from all of my runs in a row. And it's very satisfying because then you all of a sudden see these new cards and you're like, oh, this card is called Blueprint and it just copies the Joker to the right or left. I can't remember which side, but say it's the right. It copies
Blueprint
the Joker to the right.
The other one's left.
The brainstorm.
Yeah.
I think it's called. Yeah. Yeah, so it just copies the Joker to the right, so I can technically have 2 of the same Joker. So if I have a 10 times multiplier, I technically now have 2 10 times multipliers. Like, your mind starts racing with all of these new ideas that you can use these Jokers for, and there are so many combinations, and they can be very broken. Very broken.
The idea is, I'm trying to think how long it took me to win. I think it took me like somewhere around like the 4 to 6 attempts.
It took
me
just
even because you're learning the system, and like I've seen people that are like, man, I don't get it. Like it's really hard to find like the right stuff. You're like, it's like, again, most of the stuff that I play now is just from messing with stuff.
Yeah,
and then realizing, oh, this works together really well. Why didn't I think of this before?
Yeah, you start
like,
to get those synergies between
Are there
Jokers.
Jokers that you will almost never use? Yes. Because they're very situational. Like the Wii Joker, I think it is, where it's like it gains 8 chips. Yeah, I found it here. It gains 8 chips every time a 2 is played. You're rarely ever going to come across that. Now, if you have like a spectral pack and it turns it has that one where it turns everything into 1 rank and it just gives you a bunch of 2s, now it's useful. But how often is that going to happen? So like there are some that are very situational. But then there are others where as soon as you realize what it works with, you won't stop looking for it because you know that if you can find that and one other Joker, you're on easy street for a while.
Oh yeah. And in the game, as well, obviously, as you know, and some of you maybe know, you can unlock legendary Jokers, which you can only do by opening booster packs, which is a very fun mechanic, obviously, in the game. Very satisfying to open those.
It is so satisfying to get I think it's a Chikor that just disables boss blinds. So you can just go into a seat and be like, I don't give a shit what you throw in front. Oh, you threw the wall at me? Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
It's like, what's so that? Good. All diamonds are disabled? No, they're not.
Yeah. My favorite legendary Joker is actually the Triboulet or whatever that one's called. I can't remember exactly how it works.
That is the Kings and Queens get ×2 every time they score.
Yeah. So they get ×2 every time they score, which maybe doesn't sound like a lot to somebody listening to this right now who hasn't played, because it's like, oh, ×2. That's great, but I just heard about ×10. I should aim for that. Thing is, there are other cards where it's like every face card you play actually activates twice.
Or
And
there's
then,
also the card that says the first card you play gets 2 more activations.
yes.
So that doesn't become a ×2. That becomes ×2 3 times.
Yep. And there's another card called like Bloodstone or something like that, where every time you play a heart card, it gets a 1.5 multiplier. But all of a sudden, my crazy build that I had where I had like E to the 19, I had something like 25 King of Hearts in my deck. I just kept, anytime I'd open a booster pack, it's like, oh, replace one card with another one in your deck. Like,
yeah,
copy
like the Death Tarot.
Yeah. And I only had these Kings of Hearts. And I had it where every time I played the king, it would do the ×2, but also it was a heart, so it did ×1.5. Then it also reactivated the first card twice, and every time it was played a face card, they reacted again, and it went through all again or whatever it is. So all of a sudden, it's like playing the card, but it's like ×2 ×1.5. Do it again, ×2 ×1.5, ×2 ×1.5, and it kept going down. And I think I had the blueprint, which one of those cards I had doubled. I think it was the one that that made the first card get activated twice, or the whatever it was. I ended up getting, I'd put down, I needed like 100,000 to win. And again, I had something like 1 to E to the 19th exponential chip amount. Like, it was insane, this one combination, how well it worked. And it's just from finding a legendary Joker. I found it very early on, and I was like, I'm going to try and aim for Kings and Queens of Hearts. And then all of a sudden, 3 antes later, I've got like 20 of the same exact card. I'm getting 5 of a kind score, all of the same. So it was actually, sorry, 5 flush or whatever the heck that one's called, I guess, as well as all these multipliers. And it was just like, I couldn't lose. My first hand was 5 King of Hearts. I didn't even have to single discard, just never. I was invincible. I loved it.
So the one thing about Balatro that I would say is the biggest hurdle, whether you're a new player or a current, or like a player who's played like tons of hours into it, it's always the first 2 antes, or the first 2 rounds. Oh no, it is antes.
Antes, yeah, it is.
Because especially like whether if you're new, you're trying to just get a couple rounds in so you can unlock stuff. And that's not always easy if you don't really know what you're looking for. As a player that has played as much as we have, I have 2 antes to get what I need. Otherwise, I know I'm going to struggle. So it's different. If you're new, you're just trying to get past so you can see what's ahead. If you've played a bunch, you know you only have X amount of time before you're really going to start getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Which is another big tip that I tell people is don't be afraid to skip a blind, even if you think that you're going to have trouble making it. Yeah. Because if the perk is worth it, it'll add up in the end. Like, if you can get a negative Joker potentially, that could be really good. If you can get a not a hologram, like a polychromatic?
Chromatic? Yeah, polychromatic, I think is what it says.
If you can get that where it's a 1.5 times multiplier, because if it ends up being a Joker you actually can work with, that's a huge bonus. Or even something as simple as if when you beat the boss blind, you get $25 extra. That goes a long way. Or a shop being free the next round. Stuff like that. There are certain ones that I don't get. I don't know why I would ever pick the hand size +3 one. I don't see a situation where it ever really needs to come up. I've like never had one where it upgrades a certain hand type by 3 levels that I actually want. So that never happens either. It seems to always
be one you're not using, yeah.
It's like it intentionally goes for, hey, do you want to rank up high card? It's like, that's the last thing I need right now. But like, when it comes to skipping blinds, because especially early players, they won't do it because their thought is, I need to get every shot possible. Sometimes the gap between the next blind and the one that you're currently on is not that bad. You just got to be a little more patient about putting hands down. And that's the biggest challenge in Balatro, is knowing when to take that extra turn to let your hand build a little bit more, or taking one more round to just see if maybe this Joker comes up, and not like caving in and just getting the ×2 pair multiplier one just because you need to get to the next round. Sometimes you just need to learn to be a little more patient.
Yeah.
And to not just
100%.
go for the biggest hand, or the hand that has the card that has, the ×4 multiplier. Sometimes if you got another hand left, Sometimes just play, even just sometimes just if you have no discards, sometimes wasting a hand and just throwing a high card down but discarding 4 other cards you also don't need is the best option. Sometimes
Yes.
it's not always playing the best hand you have. Sometimes it's playing nothing to get the best thing later.
Yeah.
It's finding that line of when to go all in and when to hold on. It's that Kenny Rogers thing. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And honestly, sometimes like just knowing, even when you're not dead and going, you know what, this run, I know this run's not going to go anywhere. Even if I get this card, it's too late. I'm not going to be able to catch up. It's fine to start again. There's nothing to worry about it. You know, it's just sometimes people always say, oh, it's too hard. Guys, it's a randomizer. It's not always going to shake out easy. There are sometimes runs where after 2 antes, I'm like, this is easy street. There's no way I'm losing this run. Sometimes the boss blind does change that. But sometimes you know you've won after round 2.
And sometimes you get to the very final one, and then is that what it's called? The wall? What's the one where the amount you need to beat the boss is tripled?
Yeah, it's threefold. That's the wall.
Yeah, I've had that on the 28th or whatever, the 24th, the final one, and it destroys me. And I'm like, I was gonna win.
My least favorite one now is the one where it temporarily disables a single joker each time, and it switches every round. Because that one, depending on how the RNG runs, can royally fuck up your patterns. Because if you have, say, the card sharp, where after you've played a hand once, you get a ×3 bonus every time you play it again. If it disables it the first round, that means that if it gets disabled the second round, that's 1 round of ×3 that you've lost.
Yeah.
So, like, there are certain times where it can royally screw you with stuff. Same goes for when it says you can only play 1 hand type. Because, say, if you're playing straights, and the game is just like, I don't care what you need, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, it'll come for you. God, the game.
But honestly, like the best tip we can give you is play another round.
Yep.
Because you might get lucky that time, or you might learn something new that you didn't before. You might find a synergy that you haven't tried before. But like, sometimes you just let the game take you where it wants to take you. It may take you to a crippling death, or it may take you to a new wonder that, my God, the stuff that I play now compared to the first like 10 to 20 wins that I did, insane. Completely different.
Oh, completely different.
And it'll probably change again later.
Yep. Yeah, now I'm looking to like make a specific deck with like all of King of Hearts or something like that. When I played for the first 20, 30 hours, I just was like, I need to do flushes. That's or pairs, like one of those two. And it was like a lot more simple. Where now it's like I'm getting so specific and breaking the game in other ways because of how I'm going to do it. So, oh yeah.
Last question. You get 1 joker. You're begging for one at any point, and it can't be Brainstorm or Blueprint because it's just copying something that already exists.
Yeah.
You pick him 1 joker that you're going to take with you at the. If you can take one at the start of the game, what are you taking to start with?
If I can, then I'm taking that Triboulet one where it gives the kings and queens the ×2.
Okay,
because I can build.
Because you can't actually pull one like that in regular packs. Okay, let's take.
Okay, so no legendaries. Too. Okay. Usually I would say I end up going for one of those ones where like Bloodstone, I think for spades it's called Arrowhead, where it's like if you play a specific especially the Bloodstone one, because it's like if you play a heart, it does like a 1.5 multiplier for each heart played.
Because the diamonds one, it's $1. The spades, I think it's chips, and I think the clubs is multiplier. Or sorry,
yes.
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 Yeah, I'm right. Like it's plus. I think it's like +7 or something.
Yes. Yeah, which can be great, but I think it's like, especially that hearts one, like to get a 1.5 multiplier on every heart played. Like even if I'm not going for flushes, it's just helpful to have that, and I can build around it quite easily. Yeah, if I'm lucky, that's a good run.
I'm gonna go chaos. You? Banana.
Just the fucking
Because
banana.
look, it's gonna take me 4 antes for it to finally break because 1 in 6 really doesn't mean 1 in 6.
No, it definitely doesn't.
But I'm gonna sit there and just beg for Cavendish to show up.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
Because honestly, that's the most fun part about the game is getting angry at it because it won't give you what you want.
yeah.
And if
Because
there's
that
anything
Cavendish
that does
is
it,
amazing.
Groves, Michelle, and Cavendish are that.
Oh yeah.
Also, always pick Wheel of Fortune when you can. Who cares about the
Oh.
odds?
The odds are always bad.
It's not actually 1 in 4. Well, let's be
It's
honest.
not.
You're clicking it every time.
I'm clicking it every fucking time, but it's like a 1 in 20, like, or something. Like, it's not 1 in 4.
No.
Ugh.
It's 1 in 4, and only activates, and it's usually chips, and it's usually on a Joker that you know you're gonna sell at some point soon.
Yeah, there's always the Joker you're gonna sell. I've actually had it where I started selling the Joker I
They
didn't want
never
to get it on.
polychrome like blueprint when you get it or something.
Yeah. Oh, see that would be sick, but no.
Also, I wish because they never do it, but like I wish that Wheel of Fortune would get changed so that it would. Is it Wheel of Fortune? Yeah, it is. Okay. I was having a moment there. I wish there would be like 1 in 4 to do these effects, but 1 in 10 to make it negative.
Oh, that would. Oh God, I would aim for those the whole run. Negative Jokers are
Just to
way too
really
good.
stick it to you.
Yeah. Oh, and it would be 1 in 100. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, it's 1 in 10. It's never going to happen. I know my luck.
Yeah, that's actually a 0. 1 in 10 is actually 0 in Balatro.
I've literally had games where I have the oops all 6s, so the banana dies sooner, and it still would live for 3 antes. And it's 1 in 3. My luck sometimes goes full fuck you mode. And that's why Balatro is the greatest fucking game. Because it takes every insecurity you have about luck and chance and throws it all at you.
Yeah. Right in your face. Right in your face.
Well, that's enough Balatro gushing for one day. I'm sure we'll come back to it at another point.
100%. I'm never stopping playing this game until Balatro 2 is out or something.
Balatro 2, Electric Pokerloo. I don't even know what the hell you do with that. Like, I'm actually surprised. Like, I know that they've done all the card skins. I'm surprised they haven't added any Jokers in.
Yeah, no Jokers have been added yet. So,
but at this point, he's probably sitting there being like, "No need to rush this."
Yeah, because thinking of new Jokers is tough. But like, just adding.
Have you seen some of the
fan
characters ones that people have made up though?
Oh no.
Like, if you don't are you a Reddit guy at all?
Oh yeah.
Subscribe to the Balatro subreddit. People post some really fun ideas in there.
Oh, I haven't even thought of going to the Balatro subreddit. I probably subconsciously was like, "Don't go there. You'll never come back."
Yeah, like even some of the cool fan ideas that I've seen are interesting. So like, it's just the game that never stops. I mean, obviously there are mods that exist to put more Jokers in there. So I mean, it already is a thing. But yeah. Yeah, that's enough for one day. We'll probably come back to this at some other point. You know, I'm sure there'll be another dead week where we could use something random to gush about, you know, during the side quest. But for the time being, that's going to do it for this. So obviously here on YouTube, like and subscribe. Obviously, you see the link tree link there at the bottom there. Link to our Discord, link to our socials, link to where else you can get the podcast. We will see you on the next episode every Wednesday at noon. And obviously, these are up every Friday at noon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.